China just built the world's longest expressway tunnel through one of the most dangerous mountain ranges on the planet. And this wasn't even about breaking records for fun. This tunnel cuts a 7-hour mountain crossing down to about 20 minutes. It connects regions that could never reliably trade, travel, or grow together before. And it forced engineers to solve problems most countries would never even attempt. So how do you build a tunnel of this size in terrain this dangerous? And why was this mountain considered almost impossible to cross? To answer these questions, you first have to understand the problem it was built to solve. The Tian Shan Mountains run east to west across the heart of Xinjiang. They don't sit at the edge of the region. They cut straight through it. On one side sits northern Xinjiang, home to heavy industry, manufacturing, and logistics hubs. On the other side is southern Xinjiang, rich in oil, gas, minerals, agriculture, and energy resources. On a map, the distance between these regions looks small. On the ground, it was anything but. Before the tunnel, drivers crossing the Tian Shan relied on mountain highways that climbed above 3,000 meters. The roads twisted through narrow passes, snow-prone valleys, and unstable slopes. In good weather, the trip took 6 to 7 hours. In bad weather, it could take much longer, or not happen at all. Winter storms regularly shut the route down. Ice and rockfalls made driving dangerous. Transport costs stayed high, delivery times stayed unpredictable, and economic links between North and South Xinjiang stayed weak. Even emergency response across the mountains faced delays measured in hours. China had already expanded highways across deserts, plains, and river basins, but the Tian Shan refused to cooperate. Going around the range added hundreds of kilometers. Building over it created roads that nature controlled, not engineers. So Chinese engineers asked a blunt question. If the mountain will not move and the road cannot survive on top of it, is drilling straight through the only option left? The answer became the Tian Shan Shengli Tunnel. But choosing to build a tunnel here wasn't easy, because the Tian Shan Mountain is not just tall, it's unstable, fractured, cold, and still moving. And that's where this project stopped being a normal tunnel and started becoming one of the most difficult engineering jobs ever attempted. However, this wasn't the first attempt. Several other routes attempted to shorten the north-south crossing, but none solved the core issue. Xinjiang is not a small province that can tolerate inefficient connections. It's China's largest administrative region, and its economy depends on moving bulk resources: oil, gas, coal, agricultural products, and industrial goods. Every extra hour on the road multiplies cost across thousands of trucks. By the early 2000s, China faced a clear choice: either accept that the Tian Shan would always divide Xinjiang's economy into two halves, or commit to a solution that removed the mountains from the equation entirely. That meant tunneling, not a short tunnel under a single ridge, not a seasonal pass with improvements, a tunnel long enough to pass beneath the most dangerous section of the range in one uninterrupted stretch. This idea sounded extreme at first. No highway tunnel on Earth had been built this long at this altitude, through geology this unstable. Many countries would have stopped there. China didn't. Instead, planners tied the project to a much larger goal: building a continuous expressway that could link northern and southern Xinjiang as reliably as roads in flat terrain. That expressway would become the G0711 Urumqi-Yuli Expressway, and the tunnel would become its most critical and most dangerous component. This road was designed to be a true expressway, not a mountain highway that slowed traffic every few kilometers. It needed consistent speeds, year-round reliability, and the capacity to handle heavy freight. That immediately ruled out high passes and winding surface roads. So planners focused on the most direct line between North and South Xinjiang. That line went straight into the Tian Shan Mountains. At the center of that route sat the most dangerous section of the range. Peaks rose above 4,000 meters. Fault zones stacked on top of each other. Rock layers alternated between solid granite and crushed, water-soaked material that could collapse without warning. Construction on the tunnel began in 2020 with a total investment of 46.7 billion yuan, roughly $7 billion. The project received national-level priority. Specialized design institutes joined the planning phase. Geological surveys mapped fault zones in detail rarely attempted before. Engineers ran simulations not just for construction, but for long-term operation under earthquakes, freeze-thaw cycles, and heavy traffic loads. The name chosen for the tunnel reflected that mindset: Tianshan Shengli Tunnel. Shengli means victory, not because the mountain was easy to defeat, but because success here would prove that no terrain inside China was beyond reach. The tunnel stretches 22.13 kilometers from portal to portal. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the distance of driving straight through a major city. Except this road runs beneath one of Central Asia's most hostile mountain ranges. The biggest threat to the Tianshan Shengli Tunnel was never its length. It was the mountain itself. The Tianshan Mountains are geologically young and still active. This range formed where massive tectonic forces pushed land upward over millions of years. That process never fully stopped. The rock here is stressed, fractured, and unstable. For tunnel engineers, that's the worst possible combination. The tunnel consists of two parallel tubes, each carrying 2 lanes of traffic. Between them sits a separate service and safety system designed to handle emergencies, ventilation, and maintenance. This layout allows traffic to flow continuously in both directions while meeting strict safety standards for a tunnel of this length. Length alone is not what makes this project extreme. At its deepest point, the rock above the tunnel reaches more than 1,100 meters. That means over a kilometer of mountain pressing down on the tunnel structure. In highway tunneling, that level of overburden is rare. The pressure it creates can deform rock, squeeze tunnel walls inward, and trigger sudden failures if support systems lag behind excavation. Then there's altitude. Construction took place at elevations exceeding 3,000 meters. At that height, oxygen levels drop enough to slow human performance and reduce engine efficiency. Crews worked shorter shifts. Machinery required modification to operate reliably in thin air and extreme cold. The tunnel also holds another record that rarely gets mentioned outside engineering circles. It includes some of the deepest vertical access shafts ever built for a highway tunnel, each plunging hundreds of meters straight down from the surface. These shafts were not optional. Without them, construction time would have stretched far longer, and worker safety would have dropped sharply. Along the tunnel route, crews had to cross more than a dozen major fault zones. Some were narrow and dense, others stretched hundreds of meters wide, filled with crushed rock, loose soil, and water. In these zones, the mountain behaves less like solid stone and more like wet gravel under pressure. Excavate too fast and the tunnel collapses. Support too slowly and the walls squeeze inward. Engineers had to design the tunnel to move with the mountain, not fight it. Instead of rigid concrete linings alone, they used layered systems that could absorb deformation. Steel ribs flexed. Shotcrete layers thickened where pressure rose. Support patterns changed from one section to the next based on live monitoring data. Temperature added another layer of risk. Outside, winter temperatures dropped well below freezing. Inside the mountain, geothermal heat raised rock temperatures unexpectedly. That constant thermal difference caused expansion and contraction, increasing stress on tunnel structures and equipment. And then there was seismic risk. Xinjiang sits in an active seismic zone. Even minor earthquakes can shift fault zones by centimeters. In a tunnel this long, that movement matters. Engineers reinforced fault crossings heavily, allowing sections to flex without losing integrity if the mountain moved. Every meter forward required decisions. Do we advance today or reinforce first? Do we speed up or slow down? Do we trust the model or what the sensors show right now? Despite all of that, crews kept moving forward, and the tunnel officially opened on the 27th of December, 2025. However, calling the Tianshan Shengli Tunnel a world record invites a fair question. How does it actually stack up against the biggest tunnels already built elsewhere? Let's start with Norway. The Lærdal Tunnel is often mentioned first. At just over 24 kilometers, it remains the longest road tunnel by raw length. But context matters. Lærdal runs at low altitude, through relatively stable rock, with mild climate conditions compared to Xinjiang. It was completed in 2000, at a time when geological risk and construction pressure were far lower than what engineers faced in the Tian Shan. Length alone doesn't tell the full story. Then there's Switzerland's Gotthard Base Tunnel. At 57 kilometers, it's the longest rail tunnel on Earth. It passes deep beneath the Alps and took nearly 2 decades to complete. Its scale is unmatched, but it follows rail tunnel design rules, not highway standards. Trains allow tighter control of airflow, traffic spacing, and emergency response. Highway tunnels must account for private vehicles, fuel loads, and unpredictable driver behavior, which changes everything. Next, the Channel Tunnel. Running under the English Channel, it connects the UK and France beneath the sea. Its challenges came from water pressure and long undersea sections, not fractured mountain rock under seismic stress. The geology was consistent chalk marl. The Tian Shan route, by contrast, forced engineers to adapt to wildly changing conditions every few hundred meters. This is where the Tian Shan Shengli Tunnel stands apart. In simple terms, some tunnels are longer, some are deeper, some took more years. Very few combine all of those stresses at once. That's why engineers often describe this tunnel not as the longest in isolation, but as one of the most demanding highway tunnels ever completed. And there's another distinction that rarely gets mentioned. This tunnel was not built to connect 2 countries or serve global transit alone. It was built to bind a single region together, to remove a natural barrier that shaped daily life, economics, and mobility for millions of people. It fits into a long-term pattern in how China approaches infrastructure, especially in regions where geography has historically limited development. For decades, China focused first on its eastern and coastal regions. Flat terrain, dense populations, and export-driven growth made returns on infrastructure investment obvious. Western China followed later, not because it mattered less, but because building there costs more and delivers results more slowly. Xinjiang represents the hardest version of that challenge. It's vast, it's sparsely populated in many areas, and it's dominated by deserts and mountains. From a short-term financial perspective, avoiding expensive projects would have been easier, but China has taken the opposite approach. Instead of asking whether the terrain is convenient, planners increasingly ask whether the connection is necessary. The tunnel reflects that shift. However, this logic extends beyond Xinjiang. China has built long bridges across open sea, railways across permafrost, and highways through deserts where maintenance alone becomes a constant battle. The pattern is consistent. Remove bottlenecks first, even if the engineering looks excessive at the start. There's also a strategic layer. Xinjiang sits at the core of China's overland routes toward Central Asia. Improving internal connections strengthens outbound ones. Roads that work year-round inside China support trade corridors that extend far beyond it. Seen through that lens, the tunnel is not just a regional project. It's part of a larger effort to make geography less decisive in shaping outcomes. Now here is a question for you. Was this tunnel worth the cost and risk? Should more countries attempt projects like this? Or is this level of engineering only possible under China's system? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.